So now let's use tag helpers, see how to wire those up and how they can really help you with some common tasks in building your markup. If we open up that layout page and we come and look at the 3 pages we have for our menu, we can see the hrefs, or the links over, are simply just pounds right now. And we could certainly come in here and just put /app/about and /app/contact. And this would actually work. We could go home, about, contact, etc. The problem with this approach is if the routing changes later, we're going to have to go and find out all these places where we had hard-coded these links. And it's very easy to miss them, especially if you have twice in your layout. You may have them here in the header, the sidebar, and maybe again in your footer. Very common in a website to have those sort of duplications. And so what we want to do instead is be able to use something that's going to say, create the URL for me for this href based on information I can give you, like the name of the controller and the name of the action. And that's where these things called tag helpers come in. Tag helpers are a way to annotate your markup here and tell MVC6 to do some work for you. And in our case, we want it to set the href based on 2 pieces of information. Tag helpers always start with ASP. And here I'm going to say the controller is going to be app, and the ASP action is going to be about. Let's repeat this on each one of these. Now, we're actually getting rid of the href and putting these tag values in instead, so that when this gets rendered, those helpers will go ahead and generate the href for wherever that controller and action are actually pointing to. Again, if you later change your routing, this will become very useful. Now notice that all 3 are pointing at the same controller name, but we're simply changing the action name on each one of these. If we view this in the browser, we'll actually see that the links disappear on each of our items here. And that's because the tag helpers don't really throw errors when they don't work. What's happened here, if we go ahead and hit the debugging tools, is that it has left the tag helpers and not done anything with them. The reason for this is that we haven't included them on our page. So in the view folder, we're going to want another special file called a view imports page. This is a file called _view imports that says bring all of this extra functionality to the page by pointing at assemblies that you want to bring onto the page. And tag helpers is one of the ways that happens. And we do this by simply using the Razor syntax of add tag helper, and then we're going to point it at all the classes inside of the tag helpers assembly. But of course, this tag helpers assembly doesn't exist in our project yet, so this is probably going to fail. In fact, if we go refresh that page, we're going to get that exact error. Hey, cannot resolve tag helper containing this assembly. How do we fix this? We can fix this by opening up the project file, and we're going to bring in the assembly that contains the tag helpers. So as I type in tag help, it gives me IntelliSense, and I can include it. In this case, I will pick the 6 version, since that's the current version we're working with. And much like when we added dependencies into the Bower file, simply by making this change, it will restore the package. And if we go back and close this, we'll see it work. We come back and refresh. And now that we've refreshed, we can see the links are back, and the links are going to be pointing at the correct URLs. And that's because this URL is being constructed by looking at that route. Let me prove to you that the tag helper in this case will change when the route changes. We go back to startup, and we put in a prefix first, like site/, and we actually go to site. We have that site in there now, and that this is going to include the extra piece of the route because the route is being defined when we're defining MVC, and the controller name and the action name are still being handled exactly correctly. And of course, let's get rid of the site because we don't actually want that behavior. And then we have them back using the same minimum link that it can generate. The one for home is particularly of interest because it's showing you the route. Now, we know that this home page will work either from the root or if we belabor it and say app index as well. but it knows that when you want to construct it, that you want to construct the shortest version possible, and because it sees it in these two different URLs, it's going to pick the one that's simpler. And in our case, that's going to be the root homepage. Let's go ahead and go to the contact page, and let's implement this contact page using MVC 6 so we can see how interacting with the server, both getting the view as well as being able to send data back to the server, works using MVC 6.